So Valance Squadron, the top team in Europe right now, look very, very strong overall. And like I mentioned, they love this double Hunter, triple Guardian sort of comp.
It's very difficult to lock in who's going to play what. God, you know, you have your two Hunters, you have your Guardians. Is they going to go solo? Is they going to go jungle even? Because they have Cherio on the side of Valance Squad. Like, where is these Guardians going to go? So Lion Guard already taking away these Guardians between Cabrakan and Fafnir.
Two gods that are very, very key to that composition. Like you mentioned, Cherio loves the Cabrakan in the jungle, though Xaylia can play it in the solo lane as well. And then Big Man Tings on this Fafnir, that Coerce sets up so much for a double Hunter composition. Buffing their attack speed and damage, so key to burning down objectives. So two Guardian bans right away there. Susano going to be locked in for Lion Guard, but they do not have Frostiak today. Much like how Yamin on vacation right now, Frostiak doing the same for Lion Guard. The jungler not going to be here, so it's going to be Zoni, or Dizoni, or Zone, or Dizoni.
Whatever you want to say. The D-Zone.
D-Zone.
We're just going to say D-Zone. You know, the best zone is the D.
Big defense. Like, you can chant like defense.
Yeah, defense.
Defense. Zoni. Zoni. Yeah.
Either way, Capri and Zeus being locked in for Valance Squad. I could see why Tom likes casting you so much.
That was a total Tom thing to do, wasn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. So responding to the Capri and the Zeus, going to beat the Sylvanas because you never know really with Valance Squad what they're going to do. They could actually play Capri in a different role besides Guardian, so taking that option away.
Very traditional composition so far, though, right now for Valance Squadron. Zeus, Hunbat's going to be your mid-jungle combination. Papa Lobster, one of the best Zeuses in the world, though I am a little bit ahead of him on the Zeus leaderboards, and he made sure he pointed that out himself. I'm just saying. It wasn't me. Neath and Vamana, the first two bans here. Poseidon, the mid selection for Lion Guard for Shadow Nightmare. He's been very, very comfortable on this Poseidon pick early on in Season 4. Really, really likes just the AoE potential.
Going to see more bans here. Neath and Fenrir locked in away from Lion Guard Esports. Vamana and Odin, two solo laner options away from Mr. Xaylia. Not going to have those options available. Great idea to ban away the Odin. Making sure that it's so easy for Sylvanas and Poseidon to stay alive in these teamfights.
And on her going to be the selection there for Funball. Has been so comfortable on this god. One of the keys to the double Hunter composition that Valance Squadron really have been running quite successfully, like we've mentioned. But this one, very, very traditional across the board. You've got some great early game, some great mid game, and your late game's always going to be strong when you've got a mage like Zeus on your team. Medusa and Tyr are going to round out the draft here for Lion Guard Esports. They've got plenty of AoE damage across their roster, as well as good burst. I really like the draft that they put together.
And the great balanced squad from Valance Squad of this roster. It's something that they're able to adapt and change on the fly as well. The fact that they're not doing their double Hunter, triple Guardian strategy as well, which was started out by Eager as well way back in the early days of Season 2. It's still a great strategy to be able to switch between that kind of draft to this one, more traditional one, where you can't necessarily get banned out every single game.
Yeah, and this Guardian for Xaylia in the solo lane has just been a staple for him, basically. I mean, we've talked so much about the comps that they like to run, but even when they go a little bit more traditional Valance, they've still got Xaylia on a Guardian in that solo lane. Shadow Nightmare going to be there in the mid lane again, and this time going for the Bumba's Mask. We've seen Shadow Nightmare has always done a couple strange things in the mid lane when it comes to builds, but he's really seemed to like this Bumba's Mask, and Papa Lob, he's there right there with him. He's also got that mask ready to go, but with a mark of the Vanguard in the mid lane.
It's wanting to negate a lot of the damage coming from Frezzy. Frezzy always plays aggressively, doesn't matter what support he is, whether he's Sylvanas or Hercules. So reducing the Wisp damage as well as the Wrath of Terror, not to mention the Whirlpool is going to tick you a couple times as well. You have Dizoni playing the Susanoo that's going to be doing a lot of damage with the Jetstream, having the Bluestone Pendant. So this is something that Lobster has been doing as well in the past before, going for a more physical, defense-oriented style.
I really do like it. Oh, I love the impale there from Funball. Pushes Frezzy into the tower, and the body blocks from Big Man Tings. What a cheeky first blood. Funball comes behind and able to push Frezzy underneath the tower.
Valance Squad has done their homework. They know a best way to exploit the early start from this dual lane from Lion Guard. In fact, a lot of teams like to do this early start as well. If your opponent's dual lane is not in the lane, you might as well just sit on that tower line, and that's a great play here, picking up the on her, pushing them into your tower. Those two tower shots, even the body blocks secure the kill. Frezzy, again, early death despite the meditation.
You know, Toli, you and I have both been around a long time. You a little bit longer than me, and we've seen a lot of stuff in SMITE. And it's pretty rare that we see something that, you know, is like, wow, I never really thought of doing that or anything like that. That was really cool.
I've thought of some early things about like level 1 plays with your mirror walls, stopping your own minions and stuff like this, but it doesn't really work out. But yeah, play like that, you could tell Funballer is so seasoned and experienced that he knows these kinds of starts can easily be exploited. And this is what you need to do in the SPL at the top tier. You need to know your strength and, more importantly, know your opponent's weaknesses.
Just playing with everything available to you in that kit. Anher's got plenty of little idiosyncrasies like that you can really exploit, and then there's the early first blood. Solo side, not going to be a whole lot to write about here in this matchup, I think, totally. Xingqian versus Tyr. Tyr's got a little bit more pressure in the early game, like you mentioned last set. Anytime you go Warrior versus Guardian, the Warrior's going to have the advantage early on, but Xingqian eventually will bring that damage.
Frezzy taking a little bit of poker with a nice pull from Big Man Tinks, and like you mentioned before in the solo lane, it's all about the base damage coming out of Ducky on this Tyr. Once that Fearless Power Cleave combination gets maxed out, Xaylia has to be really mindful about that. Despite having a lot of HP 5, that's going to help you out the longer you stay in the lane, but in between the waves, when there's nothing to use your passive on, that's not going to help you survive against a Tyr.
Not quite, but once you get into those later stages, we saw just exactly how much damage Dimmy was doing with it. Kalas also had an excellent showing on this Xingqian. Cherio's made the rotation to the left-hand side, trying to make something happen for his team, but he's not level 5, not going to be able to find any sort of damage there. Just trying to get a little bit of pressure. This is Cherio just seems to have these different routes compared to what the other junglers like to do. We saw him start at the enemy red buff and then immediately come over to dual lane side in a set earlier this split. He just always has, you never know exactly where Cherio is going to be.
And that's what you have to do as a jungler. Adapting was able to make a lot of pressure in the early game, in the last set rather, on that Fenrir, making sure that he stripped away the back camps and then finding that early kill. And Cherio has been doing a great job as well, making sure that you don't really know where he's going to be at any time of the map, even backing before Dizoni, who's actually got word that his name is actually not Dizoni. His name is Johnny.
Oh, going for Johnny. Well, Cherio's going for those fire elementals there in that pit. Looks like he used Fear No Evil and got the big one, but meanwhile the Gold Fury started up on this left-hand side. Both Lobster and Funball's ults have been used, and it is going to secure it. Valance already have the first blood, and they'll get the first major objective as well. Gold Fury goes the way of the red squad. 1,600 gold in the lead now.
That's one of the advantages that you can use between two ranged characters on the Gold Fury. You can kind of split the Gold Fury in two different ways, where one person takes it for a little bit, resets it, and then whenever that person resets it, you make sure your secondary ranged character is still in the circle to have leash aggro, and then you're constantly resetting the Gold Fury onto each other, making sure you're not actually taking damage, but you're still holding on to aggro, and it's a good way to really get an advantage of that mechanic.
Yeah, absolutely. You can really do the Gold Fury without taking any damage whatsoever between two ranged characters if you've got the time and space, and Valance had plenty of both in that scenario, able to snag it away, no problem whatsoever. Lion Guard, their composition is pretty good right at this stage in the game, but really around that 11 to 12 minute mark is, I think, when you'll start to see them start to be aggressive.
Ooh, Ducky was thinking about his trouble there. Chariot jumped on him, but without Fear No Evil, very difficult to really lock down this tier. He's looking for more sustain, which is why he's staying in that defensive stance.
Uh-oh, Big Man takes the wrong spot. There's the Kraken. He gets the revive off, but I don't think it's going to matter. Shadow Nightmare picks him up with the help of that Typhoon. It took 3 ultimates, but Lion Guard get on the board, punishing the enemy support.
Still, with those ultimates down for like another 75 seconds, Valance Squad could look for a potential play, but without much mana on the side of Lobster. Ooh, nice use of the ultimate from Flurry Q, just making sure he clears the wave, pokes out Funballer as well a little bit, just to back in time to further progress his Transcendence.
Flurry Q is not looking to box anytime soon in that duo lane, I don't think, based on that play, and just using that ultimate, like you mentioned, to back to base as quickly as possible and get the maximum amount of farm. It's going to allow him to reach this wave before losing anything major. There's a Fear No Evil onto Ducky, but a beautifully timed Lawbringer gives him that CC immunity that he needs to get out of danger.
But it's going to be Cherio invading the blue buff, the tier onto Ducky. He's going to have a little bit of sustain issues now staying in that lane. 70 seconds remaining on his teleport, so 2 more waves. This could be another attempt here from Lion Guard to really shut down this tier. Because even if they don't find the kill here, if they force him to back, that's going to allow Azalea to get at least one extra wave on this tier player.
Cherio lurking in the jungle, trying to find something in the middle lane, but the walls are good there. Funball with a nice impale, and now he's going to jump forward, looking to find the kill on a Flurry Q. Desert's Fury needs to find a majority of these spears, finds most of them, but then can't find the auto attacks to follow it up. Flurry Q able to escape with his life, but is forced to back and miss a wave.
And that's the most important part. It doesn't matter if you get the kill or not. You make them back, they're going to lose about 125 gold total between the 3 melee minions, the 3 archers, give or take 5 gold or so. And not to mention the huge amount of experience. This is why Funballer went in. He also realized the fact that Flurry Q used his Petrified the last couple waves ago, trying to clear their wave.
He's got no danger of being having that engagement turned around on top of his head there with that Petrify being on cooldown, like you mentioned. And going back to that engagement on the right-hand side where we see Cherio use Fear No Evil and Ducky gets out alive, but they steal away his blue buff. That's what the pro thinking process is so in-depth that really is intentional, right, Toli? I mean, they're saying we either kill him here or we get his blue buff. You force them into an impossible decision where you get something either way.
The chain CC is just too much here between the knockup from Azalea on the Xingqian as well as the Fear No Evil. So you have to use that CC immunity. And the offensive mind here from Valance squad is you have to be looking for these small plays to get an advantage.
Uh-oh, pluck on a Lobster directly into the Kraken. A lot of damage returned onto him thanks to that meditation, but he's going to need this Scarab's Blessing. It's popped and he's in safe for now, and a great dash away from Tings. Gets him out of Frezzy's ultimate. Ducky's here and immediately gets impaled after the Fear No Evil. Funball able to pick up the enemy solo laner.
Jumping onto Frezzy is Cherio, slowing him down. Meditation not going to keep him alive this time. Johnny's going to dash away on the left. Cherio is not done yet. He has the speed buff. Flurry Q making the rotation, but he could get caught out here. Nice little dash away. And yet again, the rotation from Funballer, finding the second impale under his own tower.
Flurry Q's in a lot of trouble here. Petrified gets a good slow, but not enough damage, I don't think, as big man Tings finds the abduct immediately into that impale. Flurry Q holds his purification beads there. Love that decision from him. Sometimes you just got to hold that L and know when you're dead, and he was certainly dead in that scenario.
Those 3 kills from Valance squad was all credited due to the fact that the tankiness here from Lobster with that Mark of the Vanguard, not to mention obviously the revival from big man Tings, and not only the revival, but the abduct into the own tier 1 tower, making sure Lobster was safe, and then having that turnaround fight completely in Valance squad's favor with Funballer's rotation.
Huge play there from big man Tings, and then you got to give credit to Cherio as well, completely separating all of Lion Guard with that Fear No Evil, which we have seen just be so impactful early on here in the season. Houndbats has always been a favored pick in Europe, but now possibly more than ever, really making an impact in the jungle. And of course, Funball just cleans it up and makes the highlight reel play, because that's what Funball likes to do.
He's always, and then while he does it, he's also making the fingers and the tongue motion that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's what he does. You know, he just like, you guys know what I'm talking about.
He likes to hang 10.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Or like
just hang 10.
We were always told it was a sign of the buffalo in school. Oh. That was like the be quiet. The teachers would throw up that little signal.
Buffalo. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
That's how I know
The more you know.
There you go.
Flurry Q, though.
He's got such a big lead here in this duo lane, doesn't he? I mean, level 11 to level 9. He's finished off his Transcendence. Flurry Q still only has that charged Morningstar waiting to start getting his stacks online. And Funball, he's got 15. And look, I mean, it's 2v4, and Valance, they're backing up, but they don't look scared of a fight.
Not at all. They couldn't really find the right angle to approach Funballer there. He still had his jump available. He had his Desert Fury. The Purification Beads was very difficult to really lock down a non-her player, considering the fact that he can use his kit offensively and defensively.
Big man Tings trying to find out Frezzy in the jungle, but it's the Susano forced to use his Purification. Frezzy plucked back in the middle of the entire team from Valance Squadron. Meditation not going to save his life, with Lobster able to find the kill. Finally, Funball falls. His first death of the game. Susano able to pick him up. Cherio still boxing here in the jungle, trying to bait someone into that chain lightning damage. Lobster doing quite a bit, but it's big man Tings who's in trouble.
He's going to get body blocked completely by everybody from Lion Guard, finding these 2 kills, only losing Frezzy in return. It's a great job. The Whirlpool doesn't really connect. The Furious Roar is taking on to Shadow Nightmare.
Ooh, one more tick was needed, but couldn't quite do the damage. Shadow Nightmare going back to base saying, I knew I was safe.
Calculated. No problem at all.
Not even close.
Gonna be barely escaping that one. His, you know what, it's a little clenched there. We're still working on that gem of isolation, making sure that he still has the farm available. It was really nice for him to survive there. He needs to get that farm to get that power spike play, because the fact that Lobster, he sacrificed a lot of damage here going for this early style build between Mark of the Vanguard, Bumba's Mask, Dynasty Plate Helmet. These are all very cost-effective items, but heading into the mid-game here, once that Gem of Isolation is complete from Shadow Nightmare, he's going to be making a bigger impact than Lobster in the offensive category.
And I expect the Lobster may even go for a Winged Blade here. That's been a pretty common Zeus build overall. The pluck is perfect from Frezzy, immediately into the knock-up Lobster. He's in a lot of trouble. Great meditation though for Big Man Tanks. They're turning it around onto Lion Guard. Susano very, very low. He's gonna fall to the Furious Roar. Zalia picks him up. Frezzy fell as well. Shadow Nightmare, nowhere for him to go. Nice crack and gonna return a little bit of damage, but it's not gonna matter. 3 for 0 will look to be a great play from Lion Guard. Valance turns around.
The tanky Zeus stays alive yet again. Big Man Tings didn't even have his ultimate to keep up the Zeus, but he had the meditation, which was so important here. Golfier being started yet again from Valance Squad. They found the first one. Second one's going to go for free, and now they're going to have a very comfortable lead here, about almost 5,000 gold.
Yeah, Valance looking like the #1 team in Europe, and they've certainly done so far this entire split. They've gotten 2 2-0 victories and 1 split as well, sitting at 7 points. Right on top there, I believe tied with Team Dignitas as a top card in Europe. Like we mentioned, Lion Guard right there in the top 4 as well. They've had a pretty good early start to the spring split, but they don't have their jungler, Frostiak, and that's a big deal. Losing your hunter is bad, or your mid laner, I'm sorry, in Energy's case, they have to move Abolito over to mid lane. So not having your mid laner is pretty bad for a split, but not having your jungler is very difficult to work with.
A role that dictates the early pace of the game, make sure that everybody else is not going to fall too far behind. It's the staple in terms of the SMITE competitive scene. But either way, though, Johnny has still been looking for the plays here. It's not necessarily... I wouldn't be looking necessarily at the Susanoo player here and like, oh, okay, well, they have a substitute, you know, it's not the same, but it's more about the communication and the synergy and how you really try to look for the plays happen. Johnny has been making them happen, but the fact that Valance Squad has been doing more counter plays that's been shutting down Lion Guard completely.
Portal Demon is started up here by Lion Guard Esports, and the Kraken is going to be there to secure it over top of the damage from Big Man Tings, which is pretty negligible. The pluck back on the Ducky, who has to Lawbringer away immediately. Cheerio, there's the blink, there's the Fear No Evil. Ducky, nowhere to go. He's still alive until Funball is able to pick him up on his rotation. Knocked up there. Frezzy trying to get some damage off. Great Petrify from Flurry Q, but the Lightning Storm from Lobster is better. He picks up the enemy mid laners. Cheerio is able to put Frezzy into the dirt for his 5th death in just 13 minutes. Valance again just taking the team fights, and it's just the AoE damage. Lion Guard, no shell, no sort of way to mitigate all the damage that Valance is putting out.
Using the Kraken for the Portal Demon triggered Valance Squad to force that team fight, winning it so convincingly, losing nobody, making sure they found 3 picks. They get the tier 1 tower in mid. Now they're going to go for the tier 2. Minions are here. That's going to be another 1,500 gold in their pocket, and they're riding off of a huge momentum wave.
Valance Squadron just looking strong here, 11-3, but Lion Guard used the portal and started the Fire Giant, but Big Man Tings knows they've got a ward. In fact, Valance Squadron do it now. Shadow Nightmare, you're going to have to pay for this one, I think, my friend. There's Ducky. Actually, Big Man Tings the one taking the majority of the damage so far. Funball forced to jump in. Nice Chain Lightning and Detonate combination from Lobster is going to put the jungler substitute into the ground. Ducky trying to run away as Shadow Nightmare has been plucked back in by Zalia. Shadow just trying to buy himself a little bit of time. Nowhere for him to go as the veteran mid laner, Lobster, 5-0-5 on the Z-Man.
That Fire Giant was so ambitious coming out of Lion Guard. They feel mentally that they're so far behind that they have to go for this home run play, this Hail Mary that just wasn't going to work out for them utilizing that portal. Luckily for Valance Squad that they still had a ward there, and they were able to take out the tier 1 and tier 2 mid tower quickly enough to be able to make that rotation back into the Fire Giant jungle.
Tier 1 tower falls on the right. Another 500 gold for Valance Squadron. Not that they needed it. They're up about 8,000 at this stage of the game. We're only 15 minutes in right now, and the real big scary number, 9,000 experience, basically the difference between Valance and Lion Guard. What went wrong here for Lion Guard, Toli? Because this game really hasn't felt close since the beginning.
It's a combination of Fun Baller making great plays in both the dual lane and in mid lane with his rotations. On top of that, the tanky Zeus that just hasn't been able to die, paired up with Big Man Tinks on his Khepri. And on top of this, these counter engagements from Cherio with the Fear No Evil has been winning these team fights for Valance Squad so efficiently that we see this huge level lead as well between these two mid laners, despite going for a more defensive style. Now finishing off the Spear of Desolation for Lobster on the Zeus. He has the damage now, whereas Shadow Nightmare, he's level 12. Now granted, he has his power spike with the Gem of Isolation, but it's no match if you're not going to kill the Zeus anyway.
No, it isn't, and no Wingblade needed for Lobster right now. He's so far ahead that he's not even worried about a defensive option, just trying to push that lead. Funball, he's eating a big rotation here, but it's actually Johnny who's eating the Impale directly into the wall. The rest of Valance Squadron on the way to support their Hunter player. There's the bounce in. Cherio's going to teleport in. There's the Fear No Evil, but a great knock-on from Frezzy. Stops the damage onto the jungler. No pool there for Frezzy, and there's the Lightning Storm. Enough damage there. The Rising Dawn able to pick it up for Big Man Tings. Frezzy, another death. 0, 6, and 2.
Not only finding the pick onto Frezzy, but getting Shadow Nightmare very low, as well as Flurry Q having to back off. It's going to secure this tier 1 tower on the left. It's only Ducky here on the tier 2 tower, and there's going to be a few minions here for Valance Squad to be able to really burst this quickly.
And you see Valance doesn't have a whole lot of ultimates, and Lion Guard does, but Ducky...
He missed the blink. Fearless getting picked off, and now we see Flurry Q with the Petrify trying to hold his tier 2 tower for a little bit longer. Zale is going to force out the beads from the Medusa Hunter, and just like that, finding another pick, another objective under the tier 2 tower. Valance Squad extend their lead beyond 10,000.
And Valance, they're looking to do the Gold Fury as well. Oh no, they want everyone to come in, but there is a ward on that Gold Fury for Lion Guard, so they know it isn't being done by Valance. Frezzy has returned. Big Man Ting still has that Scarab's Blessing, could really revive someone. The Lion Guard need to use get a good Kraken here. Shadow Nightmare has it. He's looking for it. And he just gets plucked in. There's the Kraken, doesn't do any irrelevant damage, and Lobster immediately puts him down. Johnny trying to run away. Zaylee is not going to let him. That's another 2 kills the way of Valance, just baiting it in. Lion Guard is on a conveyor belt right now into the hands of Valance.
Lobster is on line with his build, level 16. If we look at the player damage really quickly, we're just going to see how his tanky build doesn't matter. He's been able to dish out so much damage just with the ultimate, the Chain Lightning. Everyone from Lion Guard is too grouped up, but it's too difficult not to be when you're trying to contest the Gold Fury.
That's just I mean, we see so many Zeus is going for this sort of tanky-oriented build, knowing that they can do enough damage anyways because of the high base stats that Zeus has. Excellent just build orientation there from Lobster.
We see Ducky trying to get something back for his team. The speed buff going to get started off. They know that the Portal Demon is being done, but with all this experience deficit, you just got to give it up. The Fire Giant could be looked at afterwards. Everyone from Valance Squad is thinking about backing off here to use the portal to spend a little bit of their gold in hand because they have 13,000 gold lead.
They've got a lot of gold to spend, totally. There's no doubt about that. Lobster's got the red buff. Cherio's got the speed buff. All of Valance looking to fight at this stage. Even Big Man Tings is the same level as Ducky. The enemy solo laner, the same level as your support. That's a feels good man moment.
Definitely feels good for Valance. Not so feels good for Lion Guard, though. They are already struggling a little bit in this split, I would say, so far for them. 5 points, finding 1 victory and 2 splits, but it hasn't been against anybody really noteworthy, and this is like a true test for them against Valance Squad.
Well, it's not going well so far as Cherio's going to find the jungler in the mid lane and nowhere to go. Even for the mobile Susano, Cherio finds an easy pick in the mid lane. And Shadow Nightmare, he's done team fighting for now. I'm just going to go over here and get some gold.
It makes sense, honestly. You just have to give things up and get anything back to delay the game. If you can cut the gold lead a little bit, but you delay the game by, like, let's say 5-10 minutes, you're still going to be getting your levels through the waves. As long as you're not sacrificing the Phoenixes in return, you could still hold out the game. But with the amount of lead that Valance Squad has, they're not going to give any wiggle room for Lion Guard to get back into this one.
Not quite yet, at least. Right side Phoenix Phoenix. Funball doing so much damage to it with how many items he has and that Fire Giant buff. Phoenix falling very, very quickly. Finds the Impale on a Shadow Nightmare just to make sure that there's no one interrupting him while he's doing his business in the right side. Cherio, meanwhile, has split pushed that middle wave into the Phoenix to create a little bit of extra pressure for Valance Squadron. Lion Guard, this is the time to take the fight. Valance doesn't have a minion wave quite yet, but they will soon enough. And Big Man Tings is willing to tank it up and try and get it started here for Valance.
Johnny wants to look for the initiate, maybe finding a pull, but it's going to be Ducky with the Fearless after the Lawbringer, but he gets pulled back in. Typhoon onto 2, then knock up into the Kraken, does a little bit of damage, but that meditation keeps everybody healthy.
And Frezzy, he's going to fall as well here, I do believe, unless Funball actually helps him out with that Impale. No, Lobster still going to be able to find him. Lobster just walking into the Titan room, no fear whatsoever, and who can blame him? 7-0-8 for the mid laner, has had a killer game on this Zeus, top of the player damage charts as well. Lion Guard, that was a great fight for them. Their skills lined up well. They're just too far behind for it to be relevant whatsoever. Left side Phoenix falls. Both Johnny and Shadow Nightmare very, very low from the poke damage from Cherio. Valance look to be thinking about what they want to do, but instead they're just going to back it up. No reason to force it.
All 3 Phoenixes down. The Titan is at its most vulnerable state. They have the Fire Shine still for another 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It's plenty of time to back, find the items, find any relics you really want to use here, or rituals rather, finding the Flickering Ritual here for Lobster. As if he wasn't difficult enough to kill, he's going to be even more difficult.
Shadow Nightmare. You don't get to get your own back camps. Those are Cherio's back camps now, and you remember that. You remember that as you sit there for 38 seconds. Cherio able to find yet another individual kill all by himself. He's found
baiting.
out in the jungle. Oh, the crits are massive. Johnny trying to run away, trying to find some exit. But Zalia's waiting for you, buddy.
No possible way to escape there. Johnny actually got baited, purposely canceling his back as Cherio, recognizing that the Susano was right around the corner. The damage is just too much to handle from this level 18 Hunbats, who just now finishes off his Heartseeker, selling off all his items. The Mark of the Vanguard was sold just to be able to take this rallying ritual to get back into this team fight.
Cherio's going to be here and ready to go. He teleported onto Lobster, and I don't know if Lion Guard knows. No Frenzy, but I don't think they're even going to need it. Zalia plucks Shadow Nightmare out of his own fountain. The rest of Valance dealing with Ducky on the left-hand side, while the tanky members still trying to find that kill on the Shadow Nightmare. Ducky is going to fall here to the hand of Cherio. 23 kills now for Valance Squadron. There's the Lightning Storm. It puts Funball. Funball gets one. Lobster gets another. Valance,
they want the kills.
They're just farming damage.
They just want the kills. 25-3 for Valance Squad. Great performance.